Hello guys, welcome to Current Technologies. I'm Michael, and in this video we will learn how to use the Android paging library. First of all, I want to tell you the purpose of using this paging library. Suppose that if you have a large set of data that you want to load from the server into a recycler view, it's not good to load all this data in one bulk. This will affect the performance of your app. Also, it will consume a lot of internet bandwidth from the user. It's not a good experience to give to your user. So the best practice to do that is by dividing this large set of data into a smaller data chunks, and then the more the user scroll down, you will load these chunks one by one. Okay, now let's move on. I want to give you an overview about the app that we're gonna implement for today. It's a simple search app for IT books where the user can search for IT books by category. The user will type a category name, and then a list of books matching the same category will appear to the user. We will use this API, IT Books API, in this tutorial. Okay, and I will leave a link to this API in the video description. This tutorial will consist of two parts. This will be part 1. We will focus on project setup, handling web service, and building the UI. In part 2, we will focus on implementing the paging library. If you are only interested in the paging library, you can move on and skip to part 2. Okay? So here in Android Studio, I created a new project. I called it Paging Library Example. Here you open the app level Gradle file. We will add some needed dependencies. We copy and paste all these dependencies here. This for the view model, live data, and paging library. This for Retrofit, JSON, and Picasso. And this one for recycler and card view. Okay, sync now. And yeah, it's done successfully. One more piece of code that we should add to Gradle file. This one. Here in this Android tag, you paste it here, and you have to sync the project again. Yes, and it's done. Please also open Android manifest. And the last thing we're gonna do is to add internet permission. Now our project is ready for implementation. Let's go to build the UI. Here I will just copy and paste the XML code because I believe the UI design is out of this video scope. You can edit if you want. Here in the main activity, XML, we have a text view telling the user to search IT books, edit text to receive the user input, and a search button. Let's go to main activity to Java file, define these views, edit text, call it search, edit, button, search, button. and then we call find view by ID to these views. Search button, find view by ID, and then we call set on click listener to this button. We should create a string. We call it search string or str. We get the text from the search edit text and we put it in that string. So we say search edit text dot get text dot to string. We check if that string is empty or not. If it's empty, we will display a toast message telling the user search box is empty. Else we should open a new activity where we will display the books list. So let's go here and create a new activity, empty activity. We call it books list activity. We go back to main activity.java, create a new intent, we pass main activity with this, and you want to open books list activity dot class. Also, we should pass that search string to the intent so we can receive it in the books list activity. So we call intent dot put extra. We should create a constant for this tag. It's already created. Search tag. Just copy. Paste. And we pass the search string. And finally, you call start activity and pass the intent. Okay. Let's open activity books list.xml. You change this constraint layout to a frame layout, and you add a recycler view, match parent, and you give it an ID, recycler view. This recycler view needs a list item. So let's create a list item. Here in the layout folder, we create a new layout resource file. We call it books list item. Here is it. And again, we're gonna copy and paste the code to make this video as short as possible. And then you can edit this XML if you want. It will be very easy for you. Here in this list item, we have an image view to display the book image. We have 3 text views, one for the book title, one for the price, and the other one for the ISBN. Okay. Here we can add the list item, books list item. Now we are done with the design. One thing we should add to our project is this image. We will need it. And here inside the drawable folder, paste this image and keep the same name, loading. You can select any image you want. It will do the same. It's just a loading image. Okay. Now we are completely done with the UI. Let's move to the other part, creating the model for our API request. So I will create a new package. I will call it model. Here, before we move on, let's try our API. Here, this is the API URL. Just copy and paste here. Send the request. So yeah, this is our response. Let's try another Java. Send. And yeah, again, it's working fine. So let's copy this JSON response. Go back to Android Studio and create a new Java class. I will call it BooksApiResponse. Here to do the JSON mapping, I have a plugin called DTO from JSON. If you don't have it, you can use any other tool or plugin to map the JSON response, or you can simply download the same plugin. From here, you click File, Settings, Plugins, and you can search the plugin here and install it. But for me, I already have it, so let's use it. I paste the JSON response that I received from the server. I click Settings. Let's make the type JSON and make fields private and use setters and getters and separate file for each object. Let's go back to the main screen and click Generate. And yeah, we have our model class for the API response. Notice that it created a separated class called books here. We have it all in our model package. Then to handle the API request, we will use Retrofit. So for Retrofit, we need to use API interface and Retrofit instance. Let's begin with creating the interface. So here I will click New Java class. Here it's interface. I call it API interface. Click OK. Here in the API, the method type is get. So make a notation, get. We need the URL endpoint here between these brackets. This is our URL endpoint. Just copy, paste it here. Just remove this slash, it's useless. And then say call. Inside this tag, we should put the book API response, and we call the method get programming books. You can call it any name you want. And this method will take two parameters. We annotate them with pass. Here, copy, query. This type of string. And the other one is a page. Here where we're gonna pass the page number and this type integer. Now we are done with the interface. Let's create another class. We call it API client. We need here to add the base URL. This one is our base URL. Copy and paste. We need private static API client and last is a retrofit instance. Here, let's create a private constructor for this class. Inside this constructor, please create a JSON object. JSON builder dot create. And here retrofit equal new retrofit dot builder dot base URL and pass this URL. And add converter factory. Which is JSON converter factory dot create and pass this JSON object to it. And last you call build semicolon. We are done with the constructor. Let's create a public static synchronized method. Returns API client. We call it get API client. Here we check if the API client is null. Initialize here client and return the API client. Last thing, public API interface, get API interface, and then return retrofit dot create, and then pass API interface dot class. This we will need it when we call our request. Now, last thing we're gonna do is we will create a Java class. We will call it query proposal. This class we will need it to receive the query input from the user and pass it in our request. So we will say private static string search query string, and we will create a getter and setter for it. And now we are done with our model package that contains all the classes that we need for our API request. In the next video, we will concentrate on the paging library implementation. So if you find this video helpful, please like and share and click subscribe to our channel, and see you in the next video. Happy coding!